So today we're going to be talking about the Dark Continent Expedition arc and the Succession Contest arc. I've officially passed the manga. Nope, I've officially passed the anime, so if you are an anime-only watcher, these are spoilers. You can have them if you want them, but they are spoilers. And I will be combining this section, so it's a mini arc and then a very, very large arc. I'm combining them, talking about them together, and I'm splitting it into 2 videos. So basically, as soon as the anime ended, that's where this begins, and then we're gonna do half of it now and half of it later. And oh my goodness, this is an ambitious arc. Holy cow, this is the most detailed, exposition-heavy, intricate chess piece type of arc I have seen from Hunter x Hunter so far. This is intense. There's a lot going on. There's a ton of information being thrown at us. I will do my best to talk about it. Starting with what I think is one of the most exciting things about this arc, and that is learning more about the Dark Continent. This is an exposition, information heavy section, and I thought it was thrilling. The Dark Continent is something that has been kind of fascinating as it's been teased throughout the series, and now that we're learning on it, it's one of those things where it's been teased and it's been mentioned and there's intrigue all throughout the series, but then once we actually get to learning about it, it exceeds all expectations, at least for me, which is best case scenario storytelling, and I am so excited to get to the Dark Continent. So, tons of fascinating things. I'm not going to try to summarize it all because there's so many moving parts. There's so much intricacy to this arc so far. I'm not going to make this a summary video, but some things that really excite me about the Dark Continent. 1, the fact that we kind of just expanded our view of the world map and learned that, oh my goodness, what we knew about this world was so tiny. It turns out that the Dark Continent is this massive piece of the world, and we're just a little part of land that is on a lake that is in the Dark Continent. Talk about feeling like you are in the center of the world and then zooming out and realizing you're nothing. The Dark Continent is a place where people don't go. The expeditions that go to the Dark Continent usually don't come back, and the few that do come back bring back great calamities with them. Bring back things that are terrible enough that they can destroy the entire Earth. Chimera ant level threats. In fact, the Chimera ants are from the Dark Continent, and the Chimera ants were threat level B, Dark Continent is level A, and we're just, it's a lot. Holy cow. So there are a lot of different political maneuverings, manipulation, a lot of really interesting details that go into the reason why we're going to the Dark Continent, and the different groups that are going, between learning about the V5, learning about Beyond, Netero's son, Netero telling the Zodiacs that he wants them to go and explore the Dark Continent before Beyond can do it, because Beyond is... I don't really know what to make of Beyond yet, but he's definitely a wild card and someone that I'm interested to know more about. It wasn't an order, it was a request, but of course, you know, their loyalty, they're like, all right, so obviously we're going. Beyond is a character that I'm really, really excited to get to know more about, between the fact that he's been and returned, and didn't it say that he was the reason why the expedition that he was on went south? The fact that he is inviting anybody to go with him, no holds barred, just as long as you don't get in my way, you're invited. Him willingly being captured by the hunters and going to the Dark Continent, chained up, ready to escape as soon as he gets there. Just a lot of really, really interesting details going on with his character, and I'm really excited to see whatever kind of chaos he's going to bring. And the fact that, you know, Netero just doesn't want him to be the one to explore it. He wants the Zodiacs to do it before him. I'm excited. Not to mention actually learning about the Dark Continent itself, which is the most exciting part of this section. Seeing the people that have been wrung out like towels, learning about the 5 great calamities. We have the botanical sphere that protects the ancient ruins, the gaseous life form called AI, or the codependence of desire. Twin snakes that infect you with a homicidal desire, a beast that keeps people as pets, and the immortality disease, which we have seen before. We saw this at the beginning with the one fella that they were keeping in glass who was self-sustaining, the one that has turned into not quite human, haunting eyes, he hasn't eaten anything. Anyway, he's that. He's one of the people that has turned into this. And it's awesome. And terrifying. Obviously that thing more so. Knowing that the Dark Continent has a lot of things in it that would make people want to explore it, that would make people want to go there, but at the same time the risk is so intense that you probably won't come back alive. And if you do, you'll likely bring something that will be a threat to the earth, to humanity, that could wipe out all of humanity. And now we have these groups of people that are going and racing to be the ones to explore it. And it's such an exciting setup. It's so exciting. And that's without even mentioning yet that Jing and Periston have left the Zodiacs, so now they've recruited Leorio, and Leorio recommended that they recruit Kurapika. So now we're getting more of them, or at least more of Kurapika. But before I go into all of that, I want to mention that I did read the chapters, I think they're called chapter 0, where it's technically outside of this arc, technically outside of all of this. It was like a bonus thing. It's 2 chapters, and I'm going to talk about it without spoilers, just in case you haven't read it, but I do highly, highly recommend reading it. And basically we get a flashback of Kurapika as a child in the beautiful forest where he was raised among his people. We get to see his people, we get to see their protectiveness and their lack of trust towards people outside of their community because of fear of what they would do to them. Keeping it spoiler free as far as his motivations, in case you haven't read these 2 chapters, he obviously ends up leaving this area, and so we get to see him and his motivations there and what happens to him, as well as we get to see we get more information on them being slaughtered. It's only 2 chapters, and it was an incredibly moving 2 chapters, and I think it added so much to Kurapika as a person, seeing his past, seeing what happened, as well as I feel like it added a lot for me in seeing, whenever Gon was in the hospital and Leorio was mad at him because he was the only one that wasn't there by his side. To me, it helped me to understand a lot more of why his friends are not his first priority, why this is still a burning desire of his and that he must collect their eyes back. He must, his goal, seeing why this is his number 1 motivator. And it's even mentioned, I don't even remember where, but there's a chapter where he mentions, like, I'm not going to let this happen again. And it shows a picture of a boy and there's no context for that and there's no follow-up for that. This is the follow-up for that. So anyway, if you haven't read those, highly recommend. I think it adds a lot to Kurapika's story and his character. Moving forward, so Kurapika. Probably everybody here has read that. You've been doing this longer than I have, but it's a really good section. Cutting away from Kurapika for just a minute, we do get a good chunk from Jing and Periston, which I really, really enjoyed because Periston and Jing's dynamic in the last arc was great. The way that Periston was such a manipulator and really a force to be reckoned with, just in how much he enjoys playing with people, but then Jing seeing right through it and being able to cut through it and call his bluff and match him toe for toe. And now they've both left the Zodiacs. They're both under Beyond, and they're having to work together. Pearson's line, people normally feel happiness when they love and are loved in return. I feel happiness when people hate me and feel compelled to hurt the things that are dear to me. Getting to know Pearson more, I think that Togashi writes villains incredibly. He can write the big, bad, powerful, huge threat villain like Meruem, who is it's seemingly impossible to defeat, who takes so much to be able to take down, who's so powerful, and yet has a complexity to him, which is hard to accomplish, I think, to have a nuanced, layered, fascinating character that is on page for such, or that's such a short part of the story from introduction to, you know, death. It's like, it's just this one arc. To create such a complex, fascinating, powerful force in such a short period of time is really, really good storytelling. But then he also has characters like Hisoka and now Pearson, who in and of themselves are a terrifying and really fascinating character to follow as well. Characters that get a thrill from manipulating people and who look for a challenge, who get excited by someone who would oppose them. Someone who is on the surface a bad guy, sure, but when you go beneath and when you see what motivates them and when you see the thrill of being challenged, when you see all that underneath the surface, they get even more terrifying in like a very chilling way. I'm very, very impressed with Togashi's ability to create very different types of villains that are terrifying in very unique ways. So anyway, Leoria convinces the Zodiacs to get Kurapika on their side. Kurapika just flat out says no at first, and then the cow Zodiac mentions the eyes of his people, and Kurapika goes red. The scene where we see Kurapika sitting before the eyes of his fallen brethren and says, "There is no home for me to return to and nobody to welcome me back. I have nothing left." Again, those two chapters that are outside of this, where we get to see his backstory a little bit more and see where he comes from and see all that, adds so much impact to us being able to explore his character a little bit more here. And it's also really interesting to me to see how much he's changed in these chapters. The last time I saw him, I feel like he was very different from how he is now. And it's been interesting to be reintroduced to him and see the progress that he's made of collecting his fallen brethren's eyes, as well as the way his character has changed off screen. It's been interesting to start to get to know him all over again. He has been through so much. So anyway, we have Kurapika on our side. He's going to be a part of going to the Dark Continent, which I'm thrilled by. We get to learn more about Dark Continent. We even get a flash of seeing it and how massive it is and how many crazy, terrifying creatures are on there that could just easily kill people. And Jing drops the bomb that there are books written about the Dark Continent. There's the East and West, New World East and West editions written by Don Freesis. Who are you? Who is that? Is that Jing's dad? Are we talking about Gon's granddad here? Are we talking about just an ancestor way, way far back? I think it must be Jing's dad is my guess, because Jing's guess, his theory is that the reason West Edition has never been found is because it's still currently being written. So is Jing just continuing the cycle of deadbeat dads? His dad was a deadbeat too because his dad went off to the Dark Continent and is writing books on it and surviving off of the land there and has learned how to live in this terrible, threatening world fine. and he's writing these books on it. And the reason that Jing is so fascinated by the Dark Continent, the reason he wants to get there so badly, and the reason that has been his goal is because he, just like his son, just wants to see his dad, just wants to have a conversation with him. I mean, Gon didn't really care about following his dad after he found him. He didn't care about like trying to have a father-son relationship with him. He just wanted to see him. He just wanted to meet him. He just wanted to ask him, what do you want? Is Jing just an older Gon? Has he also lost his dad because his dad went off on an adventure instead of being a dad? And now Jing is also fascinated, just like Gon was fascinated with being a hunter because that's what his dad pursued. Is Jing also just fascinated with the Dark Continent because that's what his dad pursued? Is that what we're doing? Are we just seeing a circle, an infinite loop of deadbeat dads because their ambitions are the most? Who's Don Freesis? Speaking of Gon, we do get to cut back to him. We do get to see him back on Whale Island. He gets to go back to his aunt. He seems really happy just living with her, just doing daily chores and chatting with her. In his perspective, I mean, granted, he does say, if I still had my Nen, maybe I would try to pursue my dad. Maybe I would try to go along with him on whatever he's doing. But he doesn't. And I really like his perspective of feeling at least somewhat content of, I don't really need my dad to be this, I don't need him to be my dad. I just wanted to meet him. I just wanted to see him. I just wanted to understand. And I think that that's a really, I like that. I like that he's content and that he's okay with just trying to figure out what to do next. That makes me happy. But then also, as an adoptive mother, as someone who has adopted a child, I've read loads of books and articles on adoption and on, you know, the things that adopted kids sometimes go through. And a lot of times adoptive kids will seek out their biological parents, even if they're super happy in their current homes, even though they love their adoptive parents and they're content in their house and they are very happy where they are. They just want to know. They just want to see where they came from. They just want to see who their biological parents are. They're not always looking for a relationship with them. They just want to know. And to me, I think that's just very interesting that Gon has a similar perspective of, I don't necessarily need him to be my dad. I'm happy with my aunt being my mom. I'm happy with my life. I just wanted to know. I liked that. Oh, there was also this whole plot line about finding the sneaky snake Zodiac who was loyal to Beyond and who was leaking information, and it was the monkey, and I don't really care about that. I don't really care about that. Oh, speaking of enjoying seeing Jing and Periston together and seeing them have to work together, there was the scene where Jing ends up using the punch that Leorio used on him, and it's so funny because I didn't really consider, did Jing try to dodge the punch? Did he not try to dodge it? Did he intentionally get hit by it? Like, none of that crossed my mind. I didn't care if Jing was surprised by the punch or totally saw it. Like, it just never crossed my mind. Yet there were so many comments on that video. It's very important that you know he didn't try to dodge it. He got hit on purpose. And I was just like, did I say something about that? Did I mention something that would make people think that I need that clarifier? I was so confused, and now I understand it's because of this. And it is a really, really interesting ability that he has, which he specifically mentioned, this isn't my Nen ability, this is just a skill I have, which I wonder, is that just a skill you have, or are you lying? Are you just trying to hide something? But because that is like a very strange and specific skill, but regardless, it's cool. And I also really enjoyed in this section seeing Jing explain to us what Leorio has been learning as a doctor, getting to see him like be able to feel pulses through the wall and explain what Leorio has probably gained skill set wise along with his Nen in the time that we've been apart from him. I really liked that because it's a really good setup. At least it makes me think that we're going to see more of Leorio. We're going to see him in action. And between his medical knowledge and his Nen abilities, he's going to be a very fascinating character to watch. Anyway, all that, and we haven't even gotten on the, what was it called? The Black Whale, the whale ship. we're finally here, and my initial reaction to all this is, I don't care. I want to get to the Dark Continent. I was really kind of hoping for a time skip. Okay, you have to get to the Black Whale. It's gonna take you 2 months. Let's skip those 2 months, please. And I know we can't do that because we've got the setup of Kurapika's story, and Kurapika needs to get the eyeballs back, but could we do it quickly? Because I'm very aware of how few chapters I have left in this manga before I'm caught up. And I worry that there's not enough time to execute this very intricate, not battle royale, but chess game that we're going to do with the king and all the princes and the assassination attempts, these kill each other off, but do it behind the scenes, do it quietly, do it through manipulation, and then the addition of all the Nen beasts, and it's so complicated, and there's so many characters, there's so much going on here. I know we're not gonna just skip over it, that this whole section is going to take a long time to play out, and I'm just worried that by the time I run out of chapters, we still won't be there. And I wanna get there. Now, all that said, I do think this section is really interesting, especially with the addition of the Nen Beast. It's fascinating. And the fact that these Nen Beasts take on the personality or are created through the personality of the individuals, it is a really interesting plot. It is it's great. It's just tough when you introduce and you promise the concept of the Dark Continent and then you say, maybe we'll get to it eventually. First, let's do this thing. And this thing is interesting, but I want to get to the Dark Continent so bad. Ignoring the fact that I'm just desperate to get to the Dark Continent, this is a fascinating section of the arc, especially through the expansion of Nen. In fact, let me take a second to talk about that, because I think that this is one of Togashi's greatest skill sets, is that this is an amazing magic system. I love Nen. I think that it's fascinating. I love how you can understand it. You can wrap your head around it. I don't think that I fully have yet, but there's enough explanation there for you to be tracking with everything. However, it's so vast that in every arc, we're learning more about it, but not in the same ways. Not through, oh, and here's the more information that I left out that I didn't tell you about. It's like, we're gonna learn it through a game now. We're gonna go to Greed Island, we're gonna get a bunch of playing cards, and then we're going to see how intricate this magic system is and how conquerable it is through the fact that Jing was able to use Nen to do all this, and the fact that you can actually take items out of the game. Like, I still think that was incredible. Then what we learned through the Chimera Ant arc and the ants using Nen and the different ways it looked with them and the ways that people had to use their Nen in order to fight them. And along every arc, in every scenario, in every situation, we're getting new ways that Nen has to be stretched, that Nen has to be used differently, which helps us to see how expansive it really is. And being able to see, even just seeing the different ways that the Zodiacs use their Nen in this arc, and then the Nen Beast and how complicated they are. The fact that we've seen a Nen Beast before with the Exorcist in the Greed Island arc, but that Exorcist could control his Nen Beast, whereas here, these characters don't even know that they have Nen Beasts, and they're acting on their own accord to protect them, but they're definitely not in control of these things. I don't know, once they learn more about them, once they activate their own Nen, will they then be able to control their Nen Beast, or will they continue to be their own separate entity? They will. Will they continue to have their own agendas and act however they feel like? I don't know, but it's fascinating. All the different designs for these different Nens and the different ways that they choose to protect their princes, and oh my goodness, it's a lot. It's so much to take in, but it's fascinating, and I think it's so well done. I just feel like around every corner I'm learning more about this magic system, and it just keeps getting cooler. But anyway, we have the plot line with all these princes, and you know, the princesses are also being called princes, so there's that. And then the queens, or the are they called queens? The wives of the king, the many wives of the king, and just, it's just so much. There's so many characters. So I'm not, again, this is not a summary video. I'm not going to try to summarize everything, but what I will do for this section is just talk about the characters that interest me the most. And as far as the princes go, obviously the most interesting one is this guy. I don't know his name, but the guy who is incredibly smart and incredibly fast learner, and according to the butler lady, not butler, I'm in the wrong arc now. According to the guard lady who thought that she could keep secrets from him, he is also incredibly dangerous. And his Nen Beast is so cool. Now, I stopped this arc after we got introduced to his Nen Beast, so there's a lot I don't know about him yet. Please don't tell me anything. But the fact that he is so intelligent and can gain abilities and he's very skilled, as well as, you know, the fact that he likes to collect body parts. And we saw that image of him with the eyeballs of the fallen brethren, and maybe also with the head of the boy that Kurapika lost. I don't know. He's an interesting one. He's an interesting one. There are a few other princes that I have my eye on that are interesting to me as well, but really I'm not going to spend a lot of time on all of this section because a lot of it is still set up, and I just think that it's going to be better for me to talk about it in the next video after I get more information. But Kurapika's role in all of this, I love seeing him think through everything and being so strategic, even something as simple as receiving 3 phone calls at the same time and trying to figure out who to talk to first. You know, these high tension moments where every decision you make matters, and every decision you make could potentially incite war or could incite an alliance around every corner. The person that you're protecting could, you know, could be targeted in that moment. I don't know. It's a very high tension strategic section of this arc that is very complicated, very ambitious, but also really, really, really fascinating, and I'm really enjoying watching it all unfold. Not to mention that there are really intense things happening amongst it all, like people being found that are being sucked dry, people that are being controlled, all the maneuvering that's happening behind the scenes, seeing different people's motivations, some people not interested in, some of the princes not being interested in participating in this contest, some that are all in, super excited to kill their brothers and sisters, and some that are kind of reluctant and scared. It's a really, really interesting dynamic. Plus, on top of all that, we're learning more about Kurapika's abilities. We're getting to see him in action more, and we're learning more about what he's capable of, which is so exciting. But again, I'm really not going to get into all of that in this video because I think it'll just be better to talk about in the next video as I watch things unfold a little bit more, because as far as the princes and this whole situation that they're in, I'm still very much in setup section, and I know that it's not going to be completed whenever I do run out of chapters, but I'll at least be able to talk about it better. So instead, we're going to talk about Hisoka versus Chrollo. What? This is such a chaotically structured arc. We go from laying some intense groundwork, explaining just tons of exposition, explaining what we're getting into, to, you know what? Let's go do something else now. Remember that fight you've been looking forward to? Let's do that real quick. And I don't know, I'm not mad about it because this was easily one of my favorite fights of this series. I could talk about this with a lot of characters. I could talk about this with Leorio. I could talk about this with Kurapika. I could talk about this with the Phantom Troupe. But I'm gonna talk about this in regards to Chrollo. One of Togashi's incredible abilities in storytelling is his ability to make the world continue moving seamlessly when we're not focused on a plot line. So we have this massive cast of characters. We have this massive group of people that we have spent time with and are invested in, and the world keeps moving after we leave them, like the Phantom Troupe, like Chrollo. So we spend all this time with the Phantom Troop, we build them up, they're fascinating characters. They're characters that I want to spend more time with. Chrollo is a character that I want to spend more time with. And then we're doing something else for a long time. We have to focus on the Chimera ants now. And once we're done with them, when we see Chrollo again, a lot has changed. He now has a bookmark in his book, which adds a lot to what he can do in a fight. He's gained more abilities into his book, and now he's able to fight in different ways than we've seen before. And this is true, like I said, for Kurapika, for Leorio, for so many characters that we meet along the way. The next time we see them, they're different. They've gained more knowledge, they've gained more abilities, they've gained more life experience, and they're different. And I think that Togashi pulls off this feeling of the world is bigger than just the sections that we're in so well. It doesn't feel like, okay, now we're focused on something else, so everything else pause until we get back to it. It feels like the world is constantly moving, the characters are constantly growing, whether we're there or not. And I love that feeling. I love that feeling, coming back to a character and seeing that they've been moving while I've been moving, and still not depriving us of being able to have these awesome sections where we see all that progress on display. I didn't need to watch Chrollo gain those abilities. I didn't need to watch Chrollo learn, invent the bookmark, or however he received the bookmark. I didn't need to see all that, but I do get to see it all on display in this incredible fight. Incredible and complicated fight. So I loved seeing Chrollo being able to have this very strategic battle plan, being able to, disguise himself as other people, make other people look like him, really stretch Hisoka a lot. And it was so fascinating to see this fight because I've watched Hisoka fight several times before, and he's incredible. I mean, he's terrible, but he's an incredible fighter. He's very, very skilled. And seeing him really pushed here, really have to think more than I've ever seen him have to think in a fight before, and seeing him feel uncomfortable. The thrill is still there, the weird sexual correlation that he has with being challenged, it's all still there, but he's also challenged a lot. He's also constantly having to figure out what Chrollo is doing and figure out how he can get through this. I 100% fully, totally thought that Hisoka was going to win this fight. I still have Gon's fight to look forward to. Hisoka is an antagonist that I'm more interested in than Chrollo, even though I'm very interested in Chrollo. So I was just like, Chrollo is the disposable one here. He's the one that has to go. I cannot express to you how shocked I was when Hisoka was the one that died. Jaw drop, had to pause for a minute, couldn't believe it. And I've skipped over a lot of this fight. Chrollo's really, really interesting ability to mark Hisoka and mark something else, and when the two come together, the explosion, and that was what was his undoing. It was the coolest, not his undoing, that was what killed him. That was what killed him. It was the coolest fight. The strategy of it, the having to watch them try to figure out each other's abilities to the point that they could sidestep what they have, seeing Chrollo set Hisoka up for things and then coming in from behind and, hitting him, immobilizing him for a minute. It was such a high intensity, action-filled, amazing fight. I loved watching this, and I'm so sad that we don't have the anime yet for this. Even though I'm not an anime watcher, I do watch essential scenes in the anime, the most high action, the best scenes in the anime. And I'm so sad that this hasn't been adapted because this is a fight that I want to watch so badly. It was incredible. Easily one of my favorite fights. Easily one of my favorite scenes in the series. And so when Hisoka dies, I was so shocked, slightly disappointed because I want to see more of him, but also at the same time, I loved it because it was unexpected, because again, it adds the feeling of, no fight is predictable. No one-on-one combat. You never know who's going to come out on top, because at the end of the day, it's not just about who's stronger. It's about who's able to think through their unique abilities better. And each pair up is completely different. And even seeing two people pair up depending on when they are in the series, depending on what they've learned, it changes who might come out on top. And I love that. I love that about the series. All that said, when Hisoka then revives himself, I was a little bit disappointed. Now, don't come after me. It was set up very, very well. The whole, Nen being Nen after death and what it can do, all set up in the Chimera Ant arc. And it then coming back around here makes total sense. What Hisoka was able to do to be able to restart his heart makes perfect sense. It all makes sense within the world. It was all set up well so that it wasn't like, I don't want this death, so I'll make something new. None of that happened. From a writing perspective, it was done very, very well. However, I don't like this trope. I don't like resurrections. I don't like fake out deaths. And I'm feeling fatigued because of other series that I read a lot. And it's constant. And so seeing it, I'm just like, I'm so tired of this. And that's not Togashi's fault because this isn't a trope that he's abusing. He's not. It's not his fault. This is a me thing. It's my fault. It's my fault. I just don't like this trope. It's probably my least favorite trope of all time. No, it's not. It's one of my least favorite tropes of all time. And I'm very fatigued. I'm very tired of seeing this elsewhere. So seeing it on Hisoka, I was just like, come on. But it's not Togashi's fault. All that said, even though my reaction to this was, all right, I'm just tired of this. Then when Hisoka just says, you know what? I'm coming after the Phantom Troops. I'm coming after the spiders. I'm gonna kill them all. No holds bar, it's over. And then he goes and actually kills one of them. Even though I hate this trope, and even though, for me, seeing Hisoka come back literally just a couple panels after I'm told that he's dead, I don't like that feeling. I don't like that choice, personally. It's a me problem, not a Togashi problem. Even though that was my reaction, seeing what Hisoka is now doing, seeing him come back and say, you know what? I'm gonna kill you all. And he's now not just looking for the biggest, baddest fight, not just looking for the biggest, baddest challenge, but he's like, I'm just gonna destroy everybody. And that's the way he's coming after Chrollo. I love it. I love it so much. So, even though that was my reaction to this, I'm so excited to see what comes. I'm so excited about this plotline that I'll probably not see any more of because now we're so focused on the rest of it. But whenever we do get back to this, seeing Hisoka pick them off one by one, it's gonna be a ride. Also, this arc doesn't end. The section of the arc that I read ends on seeing Chrollo on his way to the Dark Continent as well. I don't know how he got here. I don't know where he came from, but Chrollo's on his way as well, and we see him in what seems like complete despair. So, in my mind, Chrollo is aware of what Hisoka is doing, is aware that Hisoka's already killed one of them, and that he's not gonna stop. And we already know how much the Phantom Troop cares about each other. We already know how much a death of one of them hurts the entire group. So, granted, Chrollo did say, he does have this whole philosophy of like, what was it? My life doesn't matter. I hope that if I die, they won't mourn me. But I think he does care about them. So I like to think that the reason he's in despair is because he's losing those in his ranks. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I need to reread his philosophy from the Phantom Troop, from the York New arc. Anyway, regardless, that's where I stopped. I stopped on that chapter where we saw him. So I don't know what else is happening. I don't have any answers or payoff on any of that, but I am so excited to see where that leads us to. This is such a chaotically structured and ambitious arc. There's so much going on. There's so many moving parts. It's wild and it's a lot to keep track of. But at the same time, the tension in it and the many, many exciting things that are happening in the different sections of it, and the furthering of Nen in a very engaging and exciting way, and the promise of the Dark Continent, hopefully soon, is, I mean, I know it's not soon. I know that we have a lot more to do here before we're gonna move on. Actually, no, I don't. Togashi is very unpredictable. Who knows what's gonna happen? But I will say, while this is a lot to take in, it's also so exciting, and I'm having a great time, and I'm really excited for what's to come. So my next video is going to be the last video until we get our next chapters, which I know Togashi has been working on some chapters, so I don't know when, but eventually we will get those, and I'm excited about that. I'm excited to see what's to come. I'm sad that I'm so close to running out of chapters. But anyway, feel free to chat with me more about this in the comments. Again, I'm not caught up yet, so try not to spoil me if you can manage. Actually, I may stay out of the comment section of this one a little bit. I may not be as active in the comments for this one, just because I really, really don't want to be spoiled about what's going to come up next. But anyway, I will be catching up with where you are very, very soon. If you want to be a part of that, I do read these chapters and react to them on my Discord. So I'm reading and posting my thoughts as I go on my Discord. So if you want to join my Patreon, I recommend it. That's where the Discord is. We have a lot of fun over there. We have some great conversations. It's linked in the description. I post videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and Tuesdays and Thursdays on the second channel. I'll see you again soon to talk about the rest of this section.